This video is going to give you a quick overview of not only what a workspace is, but also how you can customize it using the Workspace editor. A workspace comprises a number of components, but the main ones are these. The tools that you see, the tool sets that you see along the side in the toolsets palette, the various palettes that are visible, and the menus along the top of the screen. This up here is known as the quick press bar and is customized here. However, that's not part of the workspace. To see which workspace you're currently using, you can go to Tools, and then at the very bottom, Workspaces. It'll have a check next to it. Designer is just a selection of a large number of tools from both Architect and Landmark and Spotlight. You also have Architect, Fundamentals, Landmark, and Spotlight. We've included these default workspaces to try and guess what tools you'll need and what you might need for a workflow depending on your industry, but this is by no means something mandatory. You're fully expected to edit the workspace to suit your needs. Now, since we have Designer as the main workspace right now, if I click Edit Current Workspace, that'll bring up an editing window specifically editing the Designer workspace. I can rename it and I can edit the menus, tools, and keys here. But if I don't want to edit the active one, I can instead go to Tools, Workspaces, and choose the Workspaces menu, and that'll bring up a manager interface I can use to see all the various workspaces, where they're stored, and I can modify them from here. You can create a brand new workspace. However, we'll go ahead and do that now. Leave that untitled. Make that the active workspace and click Done. However, you'll see in just a few seconds, there's not much here. We don't generally recommend using the new workspace command unless you have a very specific set of tools you want to use and nothing else. Generally, we advise modifying one of the existing workspaces and changing it to give you what you want. Otherwise, you're going to have to do a lot of customization here. We'll go back to one of the real workspaces. Now first, some of the basics of the Workspace editor. We'll edit the current workspace now, and this will edit Designer for us. If we wanted to, we could rename it here, and this, as soon as we click OK, will be another new workspace. Designer will still be there, but we'll also have Designer customized. There's 3 tabs here. The first 2 are the most important, but we'll get to the third one in a moment. Menus are specifically, as you might guess, the menus at the top of the screen. On the left-hand side are all the menus that are available, sorted by category, as well as all in one category right here, which we can expand, and you'll see a list of literally every menu command in Vectorworks. On the right, you'll have what your actual workspace includes. So you'll see File, Edit, View, Modify, and then File, Edit, View, Modify. That'll stop at Help, however. Help is always present. You can't remove it. Cloud is the last custom one, and you can see it's right here. Document Context and Object Context are a little special. They're the menus that appear when you right-click on an object in Vectorworks or right-click on a blank space. You can modify what appears in that menu. These are still menu commands, but they're not the menus that reside at the top of the screen. The Tools tab, we have something similar. There's only 2 tool palettes visible right here. There's the Basic palette, which houses all of the basic tools, and then the Tool Sets palette, which houses individual tool sets within it. We can expand both of those, and we'll see under here all the same tools we see in the basic area of the tool palette. We'll collapse that back up. We'll expand tool sets, and you can see we have the different tool sets here. See how these are all lined up and they're all in a line? That means they're not sub menus of each other. If I want, I can take a tool, and right here you see there's Pan, but we don't see Pan right here. This is the Move Page tool. Pan and Move Page are stacked on top of each other. So right now, if I wanted, for instance, Zoom to always be stacked underneath of text, I could grab it, pull it down, and then off to the side here. See how it tabs inward? And now I have text, and then Zoom is a subcategory of that. If I click OK, it'll make a custom workspace now that we've made a new one. Watch the T. You'll see a small arrow appear next to it. And now, if I click and hold on that, there's the text tool, and the zoom tool is underneath that. That's if you want to stack like tools, similar tools, or if you just want to stack them so that they're not immediately available, tools that you don't use that often. Text and zoom, of course, not something you would generally use together, but it lets you do whatever you'd like. We'll go back to Workspace Editor. We'll edit the current one. And again, you'll see our custom name stayed here. And I'm going to put that back the way it was. Expanding callout, Pop text back out. There we are. Now, we can also add completely new tools. We can't just we don't just have the option to rearrange these. We can expand all tools, and even tools that belong in other workspaces. Like if we've put bearing, nut, if you, for instance, want bat insulation to be in the basic tool set, you can certainly do that. There's no rules against that whatsoever. Also, this order, top to bottom, is the same as this order, left to right, top to bottom. So if we put this in first, the bat insulation tool, and click OK, it'll again alert us that it's modified. And we've already seen this and we understand that that's where it's going. This is the user folder. We don't need to see that again, so we'll click Don't Show This again. If you're doing a lot of workspace editing, you'll probably want to check that box. And now you'll see in the basic palette, at the top left, bat insulation will be the first tool. It doesn't have a shortcut, but we can do that again with the workspace editor. We'll go to Tools, Workspaces, edit the current workspace, and under Tools, expand this again. You can see there is a shortcut assigned to these other tools by default. Most of the tools that we include in Vectorworks, especially in the basic palette, have a default shortcut assigned to them, but bat insulation does not have one. Now normally, if we just wanted this to be a single key, we could go over here and press enter the key we wanted to use. M is already used. Most keys in Vectorworks have already been assigned, the single letter keys. So since that's the case, if we want this to be, for whatever reason, X, we already have X used. Now, we could clear this away and make it something else, but we don't generally recommend messing with the selection tool too very much. So we'll change this to use a modifier key. So Option, Shift, and X will bring up this tool, and you can see Option, Shift, X. You'll see it's in the shortcut bar there. This is just combining these two shortcut keys with the X key in order to make it work that way. And if we click OK, Workspace will reload. And if we hover over this tool, it'll show us the tool, the shortcut for it. Shift, Option, and X. And of course, if we press Shift, Option, and X, we'll activate that tool. And pressing X normally will activate the selection tool. Go back into the Workspace editor. And now that we're done with that little test, I don't want to keep the bat insulation in the basic workspace. So I'll simply click on it, and you don't drag it around to remove it. You can simply press Delete on the keyboard and get rid of it that way. The Keys tab will let you see the various more hardwired keys in Vectorworks. U, I, O, and P will toggle the modes of any active tool you have selected, but you can also change U, I, O, and P and then left bracket, right bracket. You can change these to different options if you'd like. These are also some of the built-in functions that aren't really a tool or a command. They're sort of in the middle. And these let you change the keys for the various snapping palettes. You can also simply remove these if you want. You could clear all these out. And if you clear them out this way, then they'll be available to assign later on. If you never use any of these as keyboard shortcuts or you leave your snapping options on, you can feel free to clear these out and then apply them to other shortcuts. It's up to you completely. Now, if I press OK, all of the changes I've just made will be saved. If I press Cancel, even if I've tabbed over from another menu, none of the changes will be saved. And it'll go right back to the way it was. It won't even reload the workspace. No changes will be made. We'll go back in here, edit the workspace again. And you can see under the keys, they're all back to the way they were. If ever you make a mistake or you think you've done something wrong in here, just go ahead and hit Cancel. If you're making a lot of changes, I recommend you hit OK to this menu on occasion to sort of save your progress as you continue on working through the workspace. Now we'll go ahead and close the editor and we'll go back to the manager for a moment. There's a few other things I wanted to point out. Here it'll show you where the workspace is saved. If we customized a workspace in any way, it'll be saved in our user folder. And if you don't know where that is, you can simply click Reveal in Finder, or on Windows, I believe it'll be Show in Explorer. And it'll take you right to that location. So it'll take you into the Vectorworks user folder and into the Workspaces folder, and this is where your customized items will be. I haven't customized Architect here or Designer, so they're not present. If I close these up, however, and I click on one of these that says it's in the application folder and click Reveal in Finder, it'll show me the ones that are in the actual application folder. If you have a workspace in the application folder and in the user folder will override it if it has the same name. The user folder overrides the application folder. Close that. And finally, export. If we click export, We'll go ahead and just export that right to the desktop. That's fine. What export does is export a list of all the keyboard shortcuts in Vectorworks that we've used. So if we scroll down, it'll show every single menu command you've added, every single shortcut for those menu commands, and every single tool you have and the shortcuts assigned to those tools. And like we mentioned before, if you wanted to start a new workspace, we generally recommend starting from one of these existing ones. If you want a really light stripped down workspace, generally start from fundamentals. Everyone will have this workspace, and click duplicate. Then once you do that, you can edit this workspace from here, rename it to my custom workspace, and then make your changes from here, starting with fundamentals. If we started from new, we would only have file, edit, and help, I believe, and then we'd have no other menus, and you'd have thousands of items or hundreds of items you'd have to add from the editor. Generally, duplicating an existing workspace is a better way to start. Another final item before we go. A lot of people are not aware of this, but in the toolsets palette, you can grab and pull these toolsets out, and they work as individual palettes. And they can be docked the same as other palettes. You can pull these apart, and once you have these the way you like, these are popped out. Set this one over here. You have to let go of it once first, and then you can drop it into the workspace as a docked item. Once I have this the way I like it, we can use Window, Palettes, Save Palette Positions. That's a little different than the workspace editing, but it'll force it to save these palettes. So when I close Vectorworks again, all of these palettes will come up in the same position. Again, the workspace editor was designed so that you can customize pretty much everything you see on your screen and put it where you want it. So you can choose the items that you need the most, put shortcuts to them, and have everything you need just right at your fingertips. It's designed so that you make it match what you're doing. I've been doing this a long time, and it's very rare for me to see two people with an identical workspace in Vectorworks. When you watch our videos, we tend to keep things default so that everyone has an idea of what we're doing, but your workspace can and should be customized to suit your use case.